Welcome back to Project Fast Fish. Now, as you can see here, we have this area kind of taken care of here, right? I went ahead and finished cutting out this area here, and then I went ahead and chiseled up the sides here and what have you. Now, some people are asking, all right, well, what do I do if I didn't have a chance to put the car up in the air and then go ahead and drill those holes that you used to connect the dots earlier? What are my choices? Well, I'm going to show you that right now. So this process is going to work kind of like it did before, where you are looking up underneath the car to see where you can cut or where you should cut and where you shouldn't cut, all right? And from doing the other side, we know what's already there. Example, I know that I have a brace here that I have to be aware of, and I have a brace over here that I have to be aware of. I also have braces over here and here. And instead of using the holes to connect the dots, I'm just going to use a regular old Sharpie. If you have a paint pen, if you have a scribe, even if you have a carpenter's pencil laying around, you can see the marks. Now, I've already done the assessment on this vehicle because I know where the situation is with it. If you ever take on a project, there are a lot of good resources out there to look at the assessment of your vehicle because every vehicle's needs are different. I just happen to be really familiar with the history of this vehicle and what's been going on with it since, well, 1998, right? So with that in mind, you know, I already said before that I've already replaced these panels once, did a poor job, so I'm going to go replace every single pan in here. And in reality, I'm not going to save any of it. I'm not salvaging it. Now, if you are someone who is salvaging things, then yes, you can do these in sections, properly cut, weld, so on and so forth, right? But in this case, we're just going to get rid of all the floors here in the structure so that I can eventually get to other sections as well. So again, to check to see the areas where you can go, you're just going to look on the bottom or feel on the bottom, and you're going to kind of say, okay, I know this is here, this is here, this is here. And you're using context references based off the structure of the floor. So I'm going to take a quick peek-see down here. All right, sure enough, I know my cutting area is going to be right around here. I can feel around up there. I'm going to cut back over this way to about there-ish. I don't want to go too far back because I'm going to take care of that with my chisel, right? I'm going to come back over here. Over here, I got the same thing going on down there, right? I could not only feel it, but I could see it here in the structure. I see a hole here, right? So I'm just going to draw that mark all the way up to about there. And then I'm going to cut back over. And there we go. And I'm going to verify that down here. Now, I am using that air saw, so I probably want to actually extend this out a little bit more. Draw that over, draw that under, and then draw this across here. Again, being careful of that brace over here. There is a brace I have to be aware of. All right. That brace is actually back in the back corner over here. Let's see where that falls in regards to the seam. That brace has actually been removed, so I don't have to worry about it. But there is a brace sitting up in this area, parallel with this. I'm going to be aware of that. But I'm not too concerned with it because I'm just going to cut straight across. All right, I'm going to cut out around here and so on. Now, what my big concern is, of course, is the torsion cross member right here, okay, or that torsion brace, those where those torsion bars go, right? So I'm going to be really careful where I draw my line here not to impede or cut on that torsion cross member. I got a little bump here, all right? And actually the torsion cross member starts right about this spot right here. I know you can't see it on the camera. I'm a little bit off. I apologize for that. But right about here, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw that marker line straight on down, running with what would be parallel, and there we go, all right? And this will get me this portion cut out. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the front portion, and then I'm going to go back and get these smaller portions out, and then come back over through and do this other parts with the chisel. It will also allow me to go ahead and finish cutting off the tunnel, the transmission tunnel and such, effectively removing the entire front floor plan. Here is how things currently look, and as I said before, we have these areas here removed in pieces, and I showed you how to do that a few minutes ago. Now what I'm working on is to get this centerpiece off of the rail. As you can see, the cross support here, which also serves as a way to place in the torsion bars, the metal has been plug welded onto there. Now from the factory it was a spot weld, and you could use a spot weld bit to drill out the spot welds to pull this up, but I plugged welded afterwards, and we saw earlier in the other videos that I didn't do a very good job with that. And so right now what I'm doing is I'm taking the air chisel and kind of working my way across the metal here to pull this up, and I'd like to show you what that looks like as it's happening. But as you can see here, we have to air chisel this piece off, and then air chisel the sides off, and that'll give me a moment to look at taking care of this front section and this section here that's still attached to the rear floorboards, or the footwell boards. Now, as you can see here, the footwell boards for the rears end right here. So this is the front footwell board, and everything along the seam back is the rear footwell board. And I'll show you more of that a little bit later when it comes time to get that done. But first, bring our attention over here. Just as a little time out here, I think it's really important to understand that a lot of times when you take a vehicle to get it restored, a vehicle should be restored in a clean environment, okay? And obviously different people have different ways to do their restorations, especially if they're removing pieces of the vehicle or what have you. Now, ideally, a clean environment will be semi-dust free with good ventilation where dirt and debris can't get into the panels and areas that incur and induce rust. And, you know, we're not always having to wipe down the materials and wipe down the items after you've been working on it for a while. I don't have that here in this garage. As you saw in my other video, I share this garage with other people and what have you. And that's fine, because many people who are working on their vehicles and doing something like what I'm doing here with Project Fast Fish may not have access to a clean environment. So that's one of the great things about this series of episodes, is to show, hey, you don't have to have the best things or the best tools or the most money in the world to make things happen. You can make it happen on your own, in your own garage, with just a little bit of know-how, some ingenuity, and well, of course, some decent tools at play. So let's get back at it. This is the tool that we will be using. It is a simple air hammer, and at the end of my air hammer is a shorter chisel bit. And notice this chisel bit is slightly curved at the end, or slightly rounded at the end, and that's so that you can get up under the metal and really dig and pry it up. You can actually get these much longer, but for this purpose, I think this will be fine for demonstration purposes. It is nicer to have a longer one, but note that the longer ones are harder to control. And effectively what I'll be doing, and you'll see me do this here, and I'll have it in time-lapse mode, but you'll see me kind of working the chisel up in a flat area, so the chisel is going to be as super flat as it can possibly be, and you'll see me working the chisel along and up. Or from this angle here, I'm at a weird angle here, so I'm going to bear with me here, but I'm effectively going to work it up using the chisel to pop the welds and pry up on them, and then work way down and do that on each side. So it'll effectively work like this and work like this. Again, having that flat end is really, really helpful for that. Also, making sure that the edge here is pretty sharp, because you want this to puncture through and cut some of the metal that is there when needed. Obviously, you don't want to bugger up the frame rails themselves. So yeah, a little bit of work ahead of me to pull those out, and let's see what that looks like. Well, that was easy. Now the section that we're going to work on is the side piece right here. And this is where the unibody frame goes against the back side of the rocker, okay? So this is the inside of the car, this is the outside of the car. And of course we had the chair supports here. That's the front of the vehicle, and this way is the rear of the vehicle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the air saw and kind of cut along this line right here. and I'm going to start working that air chisel up this way. Now this is already off because I never really welded that back into place, and I can worry about this in a few minutes. The idea here is to peel this back, kind of like an orange peel, all the way back or all the way to the front of the vehicle up that way.